Hey there, Dave Paulides, Canine Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video series. And I'm back in the silo. Right next to me, the favorite movie poster, Missing 411. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is kind of behind the scenes of how we did this, how we ended up where we're at, and where we're going. And I think those are important ideas. And there's something that I have personally thought highly about and been in deep concentration for the last month. Many of you know that without my son, none of this would have happened. And Ben is the backbone of Missing 411. If he hadn't gotten me onto YouTube and done a series of projects with me, I wouldn't be here with you today. Back 5-6 years ago, I really didn't know anything about video. I've been on a steep learning curve about movies, documentaries, and because of him, I got there. Now, back when, after I'd done, I think 5 or 6 books on missing people, Ben came to me and said, "Dad, there's a lot of people out there that just do not like to read. And it's a young person's world, and most people like to just watch videos. And I don't want to be an old fuddy-duddy, but I listened. I took note. And to me, it's a shame that people don't want to read these days. There's a lot to be gleaned from it. But I understand, and I don't want to miss the population that doesn't want to read the books. So we started to do a series of videos. Now, one of the things that Ben first did for me is that we went through the cases in my books and we studied the ones that were from Colorado. And we ended up doing these videos right here. And the links for these videos are going to be on the pinned comment on this video. But if you go to our video page of all the videos that I have posted on my YouTube page, these are at the very beginning. And let me go by and tell you, first of them is Bobby Biceps at the top, Dr. James McGrogan, Maurice Domitz, and at the bottom, Jared Atadural. So those are the ones that we started with that were close by, that Ben said he could do a good job with, and he did. And I went on scene and I kind of talked about each one of those cases. And if you look at the number of views they've had, that really got us started in a big way. So that was the start point on Missing 411, the video series. Now, why did I think Ben could do this? And why did I even contemplate it? Well, first of all, to march around in the areas that these people go missing, you got to be in pretty good shape. And it's a stroll to get in there, especially when you're hucking 40, 50 pounds of gear, which we had to do. So when Ben was young, he said, Dad, I want to go to Hoopa. And I wrote the book, The Hoopa Project. And so we walked, it's a picture of him. We walked upstream, up Bluff Creek, probably 8 miles in the middle of summer. And the water level was low. It was just an epic walk. Kind of nervous and a bit scary at times. But after that tromp up Bluff Creek, I told myself, this kid could do anything. And obviously he did. He went to the USHL and Miami, Ohio playing hockey, so he's tough. But we did the series of videos, and we did one on a boy named Jared Atadural. And not long after that video went up, Alan Atadural, he spells his name A-L-L-Y-N, he's on Facebook. He asked to meet me at a restaurant. And I knew he lived fairly nearby. And we went there right away. I know he was a good soul, really nice person. And I brought a big binder with me of a lot of the things that I'd accumulated on that story. And Alan said, I saw in your video and some writings that you had a lot of information. I said, yeah, I brought it with me. And I showed it to Alan, and it was things he hadn't even seen. And there were photographs of the crime scene and of various things that the Larimer County Sheriff had during their investigation. And Alan was stunned. He goes, Dave, you really did do your homework on this. And this is Alan holding Jared's shoes that they found. Alan Atadural wrote 2 books about his son's disappearance, trying to clarify the truth behind the story. And what I mean by that is, if you look up the story, still in some areas it says he was killed by a mountain lion. I can guarantee for 100% fact he was not killed by a mountain lion. How do I know that? Because Alan did his own investigation along with us. He contacted mountain lion experts, and they said there's no way your son was killed by a mountain lion. There's no blood on any of the clothing. They found clothing, and the marks on the clothing don't indicate a mountain lion attack. Now, what did kill Jared? Well, you can watch our movie, you can watch that video clip, and you can determine for yourself what did, but it wasn't a mountain lion. Jared's case is one of the most unusual I've ever investigated, and I've probably spent more time on that case than any other. And when Ben and I sat down and started talking about the cases, he had sort of an epiphany. He said, Dad, these videos have gone over so well, let's make a movie. This is before he even went to film school. So it was a little stunning for me, to say the least, because I know nothing about it, and he knew a little about it. But he says, hey, I think I can bring on some people that know more than me that could help us wade our way through it. And he goes, it won't be that much money. Ha ha. But we can do it. Funny, Ben. And we did it. Now, one of the things you do before you start making a movie is you go out and scout locations. And we scouted a lot to make sure that we had the right look for the locations that we needed to go to. This is a location shoot that Ben and I did in upper reaches of Colorado. I think in this shoot we were at about 10,500 feet. We'd take pictures and then bring them back and show them to the team and decide what we were going to do. The bottom photo is at 11,600 feet, and more scouting locations. So we went to some really beautiful locations and trying to come to a decision about what to do. This day I can remember, it was about 100 degrees out. Beautiful spot. So we went back, we sat down with we started with about 700 cases, whittled it down to about 70, and ended up with just a handful. And one of the first cases we ended up with that we decided to film was a man named Keith, a boy at the time, 2 years old, named Keith Parkins, who disappeared from far eastern Oregon. And he disappeared from his brothers and his cousins. He was playing in a yard, in a ranch. Massive search. About 12 hours later, he's found 9 miles away over 2 mountain ranges, over many fences, face down in the snow, alive. And he lived. And unbelievably, we found him. And when I found him, he was all eager to participate, thankfully. Thank you, Keith. Very nice man. And he's a retired postmaster. So as I'm doing this, I remembered that Les Stroud, Survivor Man, had contacted me in the past after we did some work together. I helped him, and he turned around and he said, Dave, let me help you on some of this. And he goes, give me some books. And he gave him the books. He loved them. And he said, man, there's something here. He goes, whatever I can do to help you, let me know. So Ben said, hey, let's call Les Stroud and have him meet us in Eastern Oregon and do this case on Keith Parkins. I go, great idea. Called up Les. He decided to meet us. So this is the team setting up for the shoot in Eastern Oregon. Beautiful spot, lots of elk, lots of meadows, beautiful rolling hills. So we went out there, and Les met us. We spent a couple days there, so we had a lot of time. And Ben was trying to pick Les's brain, and I think Les was maybe picking Ben's brain a little bit. Ben told him he's going to film school at USC. And I will never forget this. Les goes, Ben, you come to work for me on my crew, and you'll learn more in a year than you'll learn in 5 years at film school. I think Les was probably right. And I had been with his crew for 2 weeks the year before doing some other things with him. So I knew the way he worked. And even to get an offer like that from Les Stroud, Survivor Man, it was huge for Ben. And he hadn't been around Les that long, but I think Les recognized his talent and knew what he had. And they had conversations for 2 days. In the end, Ben didn't take his offer. And in hindsight, I really wish he would have. I think it would have been good for Ben. I think he could have learned a lot from Les. And, but some of the area, this is more Eastern Oregon, and this is, again, the area we were in. This is Ben after an all-day shoot. Sun was setting. We were exhausted. And then this is Ben and Les. And gorgeous location. Les was very, very nice to Ben. And I know Ben admired Les a lot and probably learned a lot from him about shooting, etc. for those 2 days. Very grateful, Les, for everything he did for us on that shoot, and I'm appreciative. That shoot went really well. And in the middle of filming, in the middle of the night, when this boy was supposedly gone, Les was trying to kind of follow the path that this 2-year-old, 3-year-old would have had to have taken. In the middle of it, Les said, there's no way this kid did this. He says, I would have walked off a cliff. I couldn't have made it that far in 12 hours in darkness. There's no way. And it's a stunning moment in the movie. So you can watch it free on YouTube, Missing 411. YouTube movies. So after we left Eastern Oregon, we went back to Colorado and filmed a case on a boy named Bobby Biceps, who was at a church summer retreat. And he was coming back from fishing when a counselor came to get him, and he disappeared. So we found a location to shoot a recreation, and we used some really great actors in it, and these guys were young, very good, excellent job. But we were at a place called Jefferson Lake. Look it up on a map. It's in Colorado. Beautiful, beautiful place. Not that far from where I lived at the time. And it was a location I went into a lot by myself to fish the backside of the lake and just serenity. It's gorgeous. It's in a deep canyon. Not really hard to get to. Dirt road. Dirt road's a good road. But I'd encourage you to go take a look. Beautiful place. So we filmed the Biceps case. And then we were running on the periphery of Rocky Mountain National Park because Biceps disappeared right on the border with Rocky Mountain. So Ben says, hey, let's go to Rocky Mountain National Park and film. And I explained, hey, we need some permits and this and that. So what we did is we filmed right in front of the Rocky Mountain National Park sign. And we got some interesting looks from that, to say the least. But it was a fun day. Lots of good weather. Then we went on to film the Atadural case. Jared Atadural, his dad and his uncle owned a retreat, almost like a motel on the river, just west of, just in the mountains west of Denver, kind of northwest. And it was a beautiful spot. And there's a lot of lies that went with the story when it was first projected that Jared disappeared. A lot of fingers pointed toward Alan, and nobody knew the facts. And they were just coming up with completely crap information. And when I read about it, I felt horrible for Alan because they were putting him in a bad light, and this guy is a tremendous person. There's no way he did anything wrong here. But the story lays it out. Jared disappeared on what was called the Big South Trail, again on the perimeter of Rocky Mountain National Park. So we had to find a boy actor that was young, kind of looked like Jared, and Ben found him. And this little guy was a gem to work with. And one thing I got to say about my son, Ben, he was tremendous around kids. He kept them interested, kept them active. And one of the hardest things to work with is young children. They lose track of things. They get bored. They get cranky and they get tired. And Ben kept this little guy active, engaged. It was unreal. And I told Ben afterwards, I said, that was amazing the way you worked with that boy. Now, there was one point in the story where Alan's sleeping in his room in the afternoon and somebody comes in and says, hey, Jared's missing. This was the recreation of that story. And what's kind of funny about this is that the little guy that was playing Jared came in, and he wasn't even supposed to be in the scene, but he just wanted to see what was going on. Ben politely talked to him and said, hey, you know, we're filming this scene, and this is your pretend dad, and it was just great. So we got that filmed. Went back out into the backyard behind the resort, and we filmed this segment with the little guy. And it's just Ben showing him our camera system and letting him look through the viewfinder and just, again, keeping him engaged. And almost on some of these big shoots, you almost have to have a babysitter that's phenomenal with kids to keep them at this level that they can be used. After that, we went to the Four Corners area of Colorado, filmed at Mesa Verde National Park, and the disappearance of Dale Staling. And Dale's wife, Deneen, and her son, Stephen, met us there and filmed. Stephen Staling is a remarkable young man. He loved his dad incessantly. He was his best friend. And when Dale disappeared, Stephen was a broken guy. Same with Deneen, the wife. Deneen and Dale and the in-laws drove up in a motorhome. It broke down and they just happened to end up at Mesa Verde National Park. It wasn't even planned, which is kind of weird. And Dale decided to take a hike in the park, and the parents and Deneen watched him walk down the trail, and he just walked into oblivion. And it wasn't until just recently they found Dale's body, under odd circumstances to say the least. And why he wasn't found makes no sense. But Ben and I had a lot of talks about filming that case because there were so many emotions involved. And Stephen, if you're watching, man, you're a good person. You're a really good man. You loved your dad. And it came across. Sad thing is that when we went back and we laid out all of our footage, the case didn't fit in. And I called the Stalings and I told them, I promise you that this will either be made into a movie or we'll get you national coverage somehow. And what happened, just right after that, the gods were watching me. I get a call from Prometheus Entertainment, same group that does Oak Island and Ancient Aliens, and said, Dave, we want to do something with you. Came in and we ended up doing a 2-hour special for the History Channel called Vanished. And in Vanished, which you can watch on Amazon right now, we highlighted the Staling case, and we got him out there, did a good segment with him. But when Ben and I were out there filming the original Staling segment, Ben and I were having this moment, and I asked one of the films guys that was with us to take a picture, and that's the backdrop. And that was a real special moment for me. Ben always showed great empathy on these shoots. You really can't teach that as a parent. And I think someone either has it or they don't. And I was lucky that Ben had it. After we left the Four Corners, we drove to Las Vegas. Had our first good meal in about a week. And we were there to film George Knapp. And for people who have followed me for a while, they know that George and I have done some epic coast-to-coast segments. And he was a true believer in my work. And from the very beginning, he knew something was wrong with the way the National Park Service was treating me and my research and failing to comply with Freedom of Information Act requests. And in the movie, George said, the National Park Service is lying. They have a list of missing people, Dave. They're just not giving it to you. And George, when we were there to film him, he invited us up to the KLAS studios, CBS in Las Vegas. And we filmed some behind the scenes there. And this is George that was going to go on for his I-Team segment on the news. He He was very kind to Ben. He treated our crew with utmost polite. He was a real gentleman. And George Knapp, thank you. After we were done with the film, there's what's called post-production and editing. And editing is one of the hardest jobs in all of film. And we probably had 1,000, yeah, maybe had 500 hours of footage. That's a lot to weed through and decide how you're going to put this together into some copious, long, 2-hour film about missing people. And that was a task. And then you got to take that film and you got to give it to an expert so that all the sounds in the movie are level, that you're not up and down per segment. Got to do the colorization. Got to go through legal. It's a huge undertaking. People have no idea what goes on in the making of a documentary of this level. I don't think Ben and I did, that was for sure. And we made it. And we got a very, very lucky engagement with a top distributor who saw it and said it's going to be big. And we had a premiere in Denver. And one of my biggest supporters and one of the people in life I admire the most is Harvey Pratt. Harvey is a retired Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation special agent. He was the assistant director, and he's a Native American chief and highly spiritual. When Ben passed, Harvey and I have spoken so much in the last month. He has saved me so much. I'm very grateful. It's a picture of Harvey, his wife Gina, myself, and Ben at the premiere. Ben really respected Harvey, and he knew of his spiritual guidance. He knew that Harvey was one of the best souls I've ever met. And Ben could see that when we introduced each other. And he kind of glommed onto him and knew the guy was special. Harvey is a really special person. And I think Ben also knew that Harvey had, obviously, outstanding art talent. And Ben had really, really good art talent. You'll see in a little bit. But this was a really, really big moment for me when we had that premiere and I could put Ben on a stage and let people see how talented my son was. So Ben hadn't gone to film school yet. And Angie and I had volunteered our time at the Denver Rescue Mission, Denver Rescue Mission in the past. And I told Ben, I said, hey, it's a good endeavor. And it really takes you to a different place in life and you should do it. He goes, yeah, I want to go. So this is a day we spent cutting up vegetables and serving the homeless in Denver at the rescue mission. And I've done it multiple times and it really resonates within me to do things for people like this. It's a good thing. I would encourage you to do it. Volunteering at any level is a good thing. So then Ben leaves and he goes to USC. And at the end of his third year, he drops out and he's trying to find his role in the world. This was right before he found Krishna. And just off the cuff, he goes, Dad, the World Series is in Los Angeles right now. Let's go to the World Series. I go, that's insane. That's going to be too much money. And he went on and he found these really inexpensive tickets out in the bleachers. And I go, well, I'll go. I'm not a Dodger fan, but I'll go. So we first go to a shop that sells Dodger wear because we don't want to get beat up. That's the theory. And so we go, and that's us at Dodger Stadium. And we went with one of Ben's friends. Now, here's the funny thing. I don't like the Dodgers per se. It's not that I dislike them, but I get a Dodger hat. This is the hat that was in the picture. Now, we also had a monogram. Look what's on the side of the hat. I still have the hat. It didn't mean much to me at the time, but it means more to me now. So then a few months after that, Ben is at Griffith's Observatory in Los Angeles and gets a book from some Krishna people, the Bhagavad Gita, and he starts reading it. That's when he gets involved in Krishna. And at the end of his first year there, he met a man named Apurva. And Apurva was a chef that travels around for big events for Krishna people. And he's a vegetarian chef, and he's awesome. And Apurva took Ben under his wing. That's me, Ben and Apurva, in Los Angeles Temple. And he took Ben to West Virginia for a big feast that he was preparing there. And Ben helped him for a week. And Ben called me every day and said, "Dad, this is great. I'm learning so much about cooking." And one thing about Ben is if he cooked you a meal, it was a great meal. And before or after he became vegetarian. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that Angie and I went down there and met with him, or he came up to Colorado, and the meal was superb. And I think a lot of this was because of Apurva, and Ben switched over to be an Ayurvedic chef. Look it up. It's really good food. So thank you, Apurva. And Apurva and I have talked since Ben passed. Really good man. I appreciate the time you spent with Ben. So one of the last times Ben and I took a hike in the woods. This is a picture. This was in Colorado. And this was right near a spot where a lot of Rocky Mountain sheep come down. And we just happened to grab this picture, spur of the moment. So what's the legacy here? I don't think it's there yet. I'm still finding my way through this missing 411 movement. I'm still finding my way to understand documentaries and do a better job with it. I'm still finding my way as a person. I'm trying to control my emotions. I'm trying to get a grip on life. And at times I do well, at times I do not. I think that I need to be involved still. I've stated before, and I'll say it again, that the last 4 weeks of my life, I have learned more about the spiritual part of my world, of your world, than I ever have in my past. And I don't want to say that I ignored it, but I don't think I was in touch with it, that's for sure. But the thousands of emails and notes that I've received from you have awoken in me a need to understand more about our world. And I knew I didn't understand it all before, but I really don't get it now. That's for sure. And I don't think that many of us are in tune with really what's happening around us. Ben told me a couple months before he passed that he thought we were in a spiritual war. And he thought that that would be a big issue in our future. I think he is right. And I may not have been paying attention then. I am now. And I care about my daughter, Angie, Elise, Anna, Shelley, Tracy, Linda, Ed. My family. Maybe with time I'll become a stronger person. Not that I want to ignore what's happened to me, but I do want to focus more brilliantly on the needs of our world and help you and I understand what's happening here with missing people and with the spiritual part of life. I greatly appreciate your friendship and your continued support. I ask you for the following 3 or 4 days until I come out with my next video. Please make a dedicated effort to go watch those videos that I pinned that Ben and I did in Colorado. And go and please plaster everywhere. Missing 411, the movie, is free. Post it on Twitter, post it everywhere so people will know to watch it. You can follow me on Twitter, David Paulides, at Can-Am Missing. And let's really give credit where credit's due to the film team that I worked with on Missing 411, whose idea came from Ben Paulides. Thanks for watching.